Okay guys, it's Krahmon back here with a video that I wanted to do, put off doing for a while. This one is about breeding, and because I started working on this video because I had an old clanmate who was still fuzzy on some of the details on how to stat breed. So I started with what he was wanting to do, which is Velonosaurs. And basically, what I did was I tamed a whole bunch of Velonosaurs for the start, and then I found my base level of, okay, these had the highest of this stat. So what I did was I named them an F for female, an M for male, and then I use H for health, S for stamina, F for food, W for weight, and O for oxygen, and M for melee. And this is my control group. This is my base level right here, and as you can see, only two of them have any levels placed in them. One was, I think, a weight level, so I could get it to move. Maybe not, I'm not sure, but it still had the highest weight beforehand, so it definitely was my weight baseline. I looked out with one of them, and this male had the highest oxygen and melee as well. So I wanted to go through the steps of what I did to stat breed. The number one thing you do when you're stat breeding is you hunt for high stats. And it's kind of tricky because every high level dino you find, you have to take down and tame, because they may have a high stat when they're wild, and then when you tame them, that's no longer their high stat. With the levels they put in, they may, or when they come up, they may have a different stat higher. So that's the complex part of it. You have to continually do the taming and checking their stats and everything. And I've seen completely average wilds come up with a high stat. So again, you kind of have to just tame every high level one you find, and it can be problematic and time consuming. But once you set up your baseline, that's when you start breeding them together to try to get an offspring that has the combined stats. Like in this case, I believe I went with my only male from my baseline, and I think I mixed it with the very first in line, which was health. So I tried to get an offspring that had the health, oxygen, and melee. And that, of course, gives it extra stats. As you can see in this next line, they went to the 230s, all the way up to the 240s, and then I continually tried to add the other stats together. So say I got a male from breeding this male with this female, and in which case I had to keep going until I did. So I had to find keep hatching till I got a male that had the 3 stats, even if I got a female that had them, because I only had the one male. However, you can, if you do get a female, you can breed it back with this original male to help solidify those stats, and you have a much better chance of getting, from continual breeding, the male that has all 3 of those stats. And then from there, you get the male, and then you start breeding. Okay, I'll breed the stamina one now with it. And then you keep trying to stack these stats together as you're leveling, or as you're breeding them. And that's where you start getting all these, like this one's a male with health, oxygen, food, and melee. So, and that's the way I did that. Now some of these that are unnamed, that was me going, okay, well, I already got a better one of this, like this male and this male. This one had better stats, so I stuck with this one. So some of them I didn't name because of that, and like these right here are unnamed because I was, at the same time I was hatching those, I was getting better at the same time. So, and then what I did was every time I got a combination, I'd start breeding them with the next line, or next in line for the stats. So it'd be I had, let's say, this male over here, this male that has health, oxygen, food, and melee. I tried to breed it again then with the stat female, or with the stamina female, and try to go from there to get that 5th stat in there, which there's a lot of trial and error because it doesn't always match up, so you're going to be breeding a bit. But once I did get those locked in, I would then proceed down the line trying to finish off all the extra combinations. And then finally, as you can see, I was getting into the 260s here, and then I got into the 270s, and then I started dropping 280s here, and this is where things really were locking in properly. Like this one right here is, as you can see, it has all of my main stats that I was going for, and now being as he's only coming out at 283, that means that there are higher stats, because and also you can get mutations, which I did get one in the process, but I don't even remember what the mutation was for. It was just one of those I ran into, hey, I got a mutation, and now oh yeah, right here, this one, it's stamina, oxygen, food, and melee with 1 mutation. Now, I don't remember the mutation that I got, and I think it was just a random passive mutation, because as you can see here, it's on the mother side, which, you know, I didn't get a boosted stat, so it turned into, okay, it's like a color mutation or a passive mutation, and you know, I just left it alone because it didn't need to it was a useless mutation. Had it been like melee or something like that, definitely would have been using that. But as you can see, I did get all the way up to the 280s for base hatch, and this one has, as you can see, 2 mutations on either side. Now the key thing about going for mutation is if you max out, let me go back into this real quick, if you max out one-sided mutations, say you get on the mother side, you get 20 out of 20, that means that's done. You can't get any new mutations. So then what you have to do is, say, since this will be the father, you'll have to go back and breed it with a female. Like, let's see if this one has a mutation. If this one doesn't have a mutation, that would be the best way to do it. And this one has 2 mutations. So what we would do in that case, you could breed these back together, and they would have from the father it would have 4 mutations, but from the mother it would have 2 mutations, so it would reset that. Best way to do a full reset though is to reset it back to the baseline with 0 mutations, and then you can start getting new mutations in the parenting. And that's essentially, like, in a nutshell, that is breeding, and how you would get not only for stat breeding but also for mutation breeding. You have to continually reset these at least one side, or well, you can't reset both sides, so you have to reset one side of their mutations. Say this one gets 20 out of 20 and 20 out of 20 on both sides or more, because you can, I've had ones that have something like 6,000 mutations, and that's just a stacking of all the mutations. And what you do is you would breed them with a baseline that has no mutations or fewer mutations, and it resets. Say if I bred one that had 6,000 mutations on both sides, mind you, and bred it with a baseline that had none, say it's a male that has all the mutations and I breed it with a female that has none, then it'll reset for the baby. The mother's side will have 0 out of 20 mutations, and the father will have 12,000. But that's how you keep going to try to get new mutations. Because once those are filled up, you can't get new mutations, and that's just the nature of how this works. And again, guys, this has just been my little guide for breeding. I did this for a friend who had a lot of questions about it, because he was, I mean, even though he had bred a lot with me when I was playing official, there were still some finer points he was missing. And I've gone through looking up guides and doing a lot of trial and error. So he was like, hey, you know how to do this, so show me. So I went onto his server and I went through and basically did a breakdown of what we were doing here, or what I just showed you, and he understood it, and he's like, dude, you explained it really well, so you should just go ahead and make a video for your YouTube channel. I was like, I can. And then I think a day or two later I started setting up for this video, and obviously this video took a while to make. I actually did all this work a month or so ago, so I shelved it for a while. But anyway, guys, sorry about my rambling, but this has been basically the noob's guide to breeding for stats and mutations. Anyway, I'm Krahmon, and thanks for hanging out, guys, and I will catch you in my next video.